Hi, Mike Kennedy with you. Thought I'd review this movie my wife and I watched. Uh, it's called I Am Patrick. It was in the theaters once, one of those real super limited engagement things where it shows up like one day. And it was kind of mixed in there with the pandemic and all that stuff. So it's something I kind of wanted to get to, but we just couldn't. So it's by I Am Patrick. It's about St. Patrick, and it's was made by CBN, Christian Broadcasting Network. So, on the Roku or on a tablet or whatever, you can go to the site and you can basically purchase the DVD for any amount of money you want, and then you can stream it as well. So that's what we did, and they asked, well, could you kick in $2 more? That's what the actual physical cost of them producing the CD and sending it to you is. And yeah, sure. So I gave them $12. And which was less than some of the special engagements they rent. Sometimes it's different with each one, I'm sure, but I read about one when they were doing one, the tickets will sometimes tend to be like $17, $18 a piece. And it's because basically they have to rent the theater, and then they have to charge enough money to pay that rent. And then, of course, money has to go back because these things cost a lot to produce. But it's interesting with this digital how the cost of being able to produce a really, theater quality movie has dropped enormously. You figure with analog film, you had to have film. Usually you were going to use 35 millimeter film. You needed sound equipment, enormous amount of lighting equipment. And so it was extremely expensive to shoot any type of movie at all. But now with digital, it's quite a bit different. You cut out all the processing costs. You're not using 35 millimeter film and producing this, well, I won't go into it all, but it's way cheaper, okay? And the cameras themselves, I mean, you can get a, 4 or 8K quality digital, video camera for, you get the whole setup for like $5,000 is really amazing when you consider it. And even just to see how far things have gone, I have this Samsung phone that I use, A52 5G, and I do all the filming and editing right on the phone. So before, it was really complex trying to do something like that. So anyway, to give you the brief background of Patrick, he's an Englishman. He's the son of a wealthy family. And of course, this is, 400, 500 AD period. Christianity has become legal, but the Roman Empire taxes people quite heavily in these outlying areas because, generally, a lot of times, lands are conquered to use them as resources. So you actually basically turn them into people that you can tax heavily or use their resources or whatever. And so that's kind of why some of these wars were fought, was just to secure resources, and take not necessarily just what they needed to get a lot more. But so anyway, so he's, Christianity's become legal. So they're involved with the church, the Father and the Son and the family, because they get some tax benefits. Because, Christianity is now the accepted religion of the Roman Empire. They don't have to pay as much taxes as other people. So, the father and son, they go to, they show them going to mass and stuff. And they're, basically kind of, it's just something they do to, it's an economic advantage. So, the Roman Empire is having trouble, and they're pulling some of the people away from the furthest areas around because things are going wrong, and they have to get more troops back. So this leaves the outlying areas very vulnerable to attack. And something that's been going on, this is it's funny. People think the USA, this, discovered slavery. Like, we were the ones who invented it. It's been going on forever. And so what you have is, you have these bands of people, in this case, people from the island of Ireland, would come over, hit, England, and would steal people to use for slaves. So in this one thing that they do, they attack, the house that St. Patrick's in, and they take him away to be a slave. And of course, he's this guy that's, only had the best of things. Never had to, he even owned slaves, well, not him, but say his father. They had slaves. So it was like he was very out of touch with anything spiritual at all, even though he went to church all this time. So, he suddenly found himself in this wicked, oppressive type thing, and they're not giving him enough to eat, they're making him work. At one point, they decide they want to use him as a shepherd. So he's alone a lot of the time, and he starts praying. And he begins to see, and I should mention, okay, the script primarily that they're using, the primary information is a thing called a confession that St. Patrick wrote near the end of his death. People were kind of attacking his ministry, saying, oh, there were things wrong with it, he wasn't doing things the right way or whatever, and he wrote this in response to it. And it kind of chronicles certain things in his life. And so what happens then is St. Patrick, I should just say Patrick. Patrick sees this event as somehow God trying to tell him that he's been living the wrong kind of life. So he starts praying and praying and praying. And he's praying, he says, I pray. He was praying 100 times a day, more than 100 at night even. Whenever he had the opportunity, he would pray. And so he's like lying, down, trying to sleep at night with the sheep and everything. And he has this vision. God says to him, well, I'm going to have a boat waiting for you. And you're going to go back and you're going to see your family, be with your family again. He's like, wow. And so, at this point, he's been very, they're in a real desolate area. So the thought of someone just taking off probably doesn't cross a lot of people's minds, but he just basically takes off. He goes through this 200-mile journey through territory that he really doesn't know at all. And sure enough, he gets to the shore, and there's a boat there getting ready to embark, to go to England. And he goes up to them and says, of course, now he knows the language of the Irish people really well. And he approaches the boat person and says, well, can I sail with you? Can can I go with you on this trip? And the guy says, well, you have to do this disgusting thing first to prove to me that you are loyal to me. And Patrick's kind of like, no, I can't do that. And so he kind of is leaving, and the guy calls him back and says, get in the boat. And so they take him. And sure enough, he gets back home, gets with his parents there. They're absolutely thrilled. He's been gone like 6 years, and he's back. Well, he's not the same Patrick. He's Patrick who is very close to God, has this very close personal relationship to God. And he, they've been grooming him, of course, to take over his father's business. And he's kind of announced that, no, he's going to become a priest. And not only is he going to be a priest, he wants to become a bishop. And, God speaks to him at one time and says to him, he has his vision again. And in the vision, he's hearing the people of Ireland asking him, all these voices telling him to come back, they need him, and all of this stuff. And so eventually, as he rises up the ladder, becomes bishop, he goes back to Ireland. Now, I guess I wasn't aware of this, but there were some Christians in Ireland already, because in even as early as just a year ago, they had sent another person to church over to help start some kind of evangelization thing in Ireland. So Patrick goes with a sense of the idea that he can't fail because he's doing what God asked him to. And sure enough, he has a dramatic effect on Ireland. He's got all these warring tribes and everything, and he starts converting people kind of right and left. One time one tribe captures him and puts him in kind of like in a jail, takes all their valuables, everything, throws him in this pen, and they're just there for like 2 weeks. Now all of a sudden, someone comes in, gives them back all their stuff, and says you can leave, and he thinks that must be God that did that. And he has other instances like that where things look very hopeless, and then they aren't. So then, they go on with the movie and different things like that. And part of the reason Patrick is writing this thing that he's using for the script is because people are starting to attack him. People back in the church, the Catholic Church in England, don't like what they're hearing. There's rumors coming out that he's not doing the right thing. Bishop's supposed to stay in one area, and he's virtually walking around everywhere in Ireland that he can get to. And there's all of these kings in Ireland that think they're and they're into all kinds of idols and other gods and things like that. So basically, he transforms Ireland. Now, so I think the movie's really, really interesting. And they'll run a clip of the live action sort of thing. Then they might interview someone for a few minutes, and then they continue on. And to throw in another thing, this wasn't in the movie, but one of the reasons why I wanted to see it, although this only kind of gets a brief mention, that, of course, what's happening while Patrick is there is the Roman Empire starting to weaken. And so St. Patrick has built up this huge group of Christians, of monks and different things, and priests and nuns and whatever. There's all this stuff. And one of the things, this is from a book I listened to, an audiobook called How the Irish Saved Civilization, okay? And so Patrick basically has these monks get anything they think is even remotely valuable as a book, they want to get it and copy it, And in those days, you had to keep copying books because they would fall apart after a certain amount of time. And the only thing you could do is keep copying them while the copies are good. So you might have 4 copies of a book, and when that first copy goes bad, you would take out one of the other good copies, and you would transcribe it and let them have one of the remaining good copies, but you would keep replacing them. And the number of copies you would have would depend on how many people are using this book. So basically, what happens, of course, the Roman Empire falls, the barbarians come in, and the magnificent library at Alexandria, the Muslims come in there and they destroy it. They see no value in it at all. So, the knowledge, all the knowledge of the ancient world is contained in that library, and it's just destroyed. And they used the paper to start fires with. They used, I don't know if you can't really call it, well, parchment. I suppose it's different things that the books are made out of, but they even used it for toilet paper, the barbarians. So all of these books are basically destroyed. They're destroyed in other places too. But way on this island of Ireland, the books survive. So a lot of what we know about the ancient world is only because St. Patrick's monks copied those books and kept their copies here in Ireland. and that the hordes that were destroying Europe didn't go out to Ireland. Indeed, Patrick thinks Ireland is actually the end of the world. He believes that's where the world ends. He expects that Jesus is going to return because he's preaching the kingdom to the last ends of the earth. And of course, he doesn't know there's there's much more to the world than just this island called Ireland. But it had been built up in legend and myth that this was, this is unbelievable. This was so far out from civilization, so barbaric, and all of this stuff that basically that was it. After that, there was nothing. And you could see to some extent if you stand on a shore in Ireland, looking, west, you're not going to see much anything. So, but I thought it was a very, very interesting movie. If you're interested in it all, I definitely think you should check it out. I'll leave a link below to where you can, purchase a CD. And then with the CD, you can stream it immediately. So that's what we did. We got it. I'm sure the CD will come in like 7 to 10 business days or whatever. And, but you can write off. And they've got some other small videos about, the filming of it, making it, and things like that too, that, are usually on DVDs and you can watch. Bye.